The moving truck hadn't even pulled away when I spotted her marching up my driveway, designer handbag swinging like a weapon at her side. Layla Flores, my ex-mother-in-law and quite possibly Satan's more ambitious sister. I'm Stella, and this was supposed to be my moment of triumph. After 18 months of hell fighting through a divorce with her precious son Adrian, I'd finally claimed my independence by buying my childhood home in Cedar Grove. But apparently, the universe had other plans. Darling, Layla's saccharine voice carried across the yard. I'm so relieved I caught you moving in. She air-kissed both my cheeks before I could step back. We have some urgent business to discuss. I crossed my arms, feeling the sweat from unpacking boxes trickle down my back. Layla, the divorce is final. There's nothing left to discuss. She clicked her tongue, reaching into her bag. Oh, but there is. You see this house? It's actually going to be my new residence. Together, we headed for the study, where my father's old landscape painting still hung on the wall. Whatever secrets this house held, whatever game Layla was playing, one thing was certain. I wasn't going down without a fight. The painting in Dad's study was heavier than I remembered. Gianna held it steady while I ran my fingers along the back, finding nothing but dust and disappointment. Maybe we should just call Elliot, she suggested, arms trembling under the weight. Wait. My fingers caught on something, a small tear in the canvas backing. Inside was a yellowed envelope, Dad's handwriting clear across the front. Property deed, 1985. Holy shit, Gianna breathed as I carefully opened it. Is that what I think it is? Before I could answer, my sister Maureen burst through the front door. Stella, your evil ex-mother-in-law is telling everyone at the grocery store that you're squatting in this house illegally. Of course she is, I muttered, spreading the documents on Dad's old desk. Come look at this. Maureen peered over my shoulder. What am I looking at? The original deed to the house, I said, scanning the paperwork. Dad bought it from… Oh my God. What? Gianna and Maureen asked in unison. He bought it from Robert Flores, Adrian's grandfather. My hands shook as I read further. And there's a letter here, too. The letter was brief but clear. Robert had sold the house to my father under one condition, that it never returned to the Flores family. He'd written that his son Marcus, Layla's husband, was not to be trusted with this property or its contents. Well, that's cryptic as hell, Maureen said, pulling out her phone. Let me Google the Flores family history. My phone rang. Elliot. Stella, I've been looking at those documents Layla showed you. They're definitely forged. The notary stamp is from someone who died 3 years ago. I need you to come over, I said. Right now. We found something. 20 minutes later, Elliot was examining the old deed while I paced the study. This is legitimate, he confirmed, and it predates any claim Adrian or Layla might make. But what? But they knew about this deed. That's why they're moving so aggressively. They want something in this house, Stella. Something valuable enough to commit fraud over. Maureen looked up from her phone. Guys, listen to this. In 1985, right before Robert Flores sold this house, there was a huge scandal at the local bank. Millions disappeared overnight. Robert was on the board of directors, but he was never charged. The safe, Gianna whispered. Adrian's text about the safe. What if that's where the money is? Elliot straightened his tie. If there's evidence of financial crimes in this house, we need to be careful. The Flores family has influence in this town. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Check the basement floor. 3rd tile from the north wall, 5th row in. Hurry. Maureen, watch the front door, I ordered. Gianna, you're with me. Elliot, start documenting everything we find. The basement was musty and dark. I counted tiles while Gianna held her phone's flashlight. The tile in question was slightly darker than the others. Here goes nothing, I muttered, prying at the edges with a screwdriver. The tile lifted easily, revealing a small metal door set into the concrete. It's a floor safe, Elliot said from the stairs. Probably from the 80s. Do you have the combination? Another text arrived. Robert's birthday, 11/22/29. My fingers trembled as I turned the dial. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside was a single manila envelope and a handwritten note. To whoever finds this, I'm sorry. The truth about Marcus and Layla Flores must come out. They're not who they pretend to be. Robert. Stella! Gianna's voice was urgent. Someone just pulled up outside. Maureen's footsteps thundered down the stairs. It's Adrian, and he looks pissed. I shoved the envelope into my bag just as Adrian's voice boomed from upstairs. Stella, we need to talk. Elliot stepped forward. Let me handle this. I'm still your lawyer of record. I grabbed his arm. No, I need to face him myself. I turned to my friends and sister. But maybe stick close? Right behind you, sis, Maureen promised. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Excuse me? Here. She thrust a stack of papers at me. These documents show Adrian's claim to this property. As his mother, I'll be taking possession while he's abroad on business. My hands trembled as I scanned the papers. This couldn't be happening. I'd done everything right. The searches, the checks, the endless paperwork with my realtor. These are fake, I said, but my voice wavered. As we climbed the stairs, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Power. Whatever was in that envelope, whatever secrets the Flores family was hiding, I finally had leverage. Adrian was waiting in the foyer, looking exactly as he had the day I left him. Expensive suit, perfect hair, and that smug smile that used to make my stomach turn. Hello, Stella, he said smoothly. I believe you have something that belongs to my family. I lifted my chin. Funny, I was just about to say the same thing about this house. His smile faltered, just slightly. Don't make this difficult. Mother can be quite persistent when she wants something. Oh, I'm counting on it, I replied, patting my bag where Robert's envelope sat heavy with secrets. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. Adrian's eyes locked onto my bag. Whatever you think you've found, it's not what you imagine. Really? I pulled out Robert's envelope, because your grandfather seemed pretty clear about keeping this house away from your family, especially your father. His confident facade cracked. Where did you— Get out of my house, Adrian. Or should we call the police to discuss these forged documents your mother brought over? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You don't understand what you're dealing with. My father's investments are none of my business. I cut him off. Just like this house is none of yours. The front door burst open, and Layla stormed in. Adrian, I told you to wait for me. Perfect timing. Elliot stepped forward. I was just about to call you, Mrs. Flores. We need to discuss the fraudulent documents you presented earlier. Layla's face reddened. I don't know what you're talking about. The notary's been dead for 3 years, I said. Want to explain that? Mother, Adrian warned, but Layla raised her hand to silence him. Fine. You want the truth? Your father stole this house from our family. Robert was senile when he sold it. It should have gone to Marcus, to our family. Maureen snorted. That's not what Robert's letter says. What letter? Layla's voice sharpened. I held up the envelope. The one explaining exactly why he sold it to my father? Something about keeping it away from Marcus? Care to elaborate? Layla's composure shattered. Give me that letter. Back off, Gianna stepped between us. Or the police get copies of everything. The forged documents, the letter, all of it. You don't understand, Layla's voice cracked. Marcus will lose everything if this gets out. The bank board is already investigating. Adrian grabbed her arm. Mother, stop talking. But Layla was unraveling. Your father trusted Robert. Trusted him with everything. And Robert betrayed us. Sold this house out from under us. Hid the evidence. Evidence of what? I pressed. Mother, we're leaving. Now. Adrian tried pulling her toward the door. No, Layla wrenched free. Stella, please. Whatever's in that envelope. Marcus made mistakes, but he's still Adrian's father. We can pay you. Name your price. I opened the envelope and pulled out the contents. Bank statements, transaction records, photos. My hands trembled as I realized what I was holding. This is proof of embezzlement, Elliot said quietly, looking over my shoulder. From 1985, and recent transactions, too. It's all connected to this house, isn't it? I looked at Adrian. That's why you never told me about your family's history here during our marriage. Why your mother's so desperate to get in. Adrian's jaw clenched. You have no idea what my father sacrificed for this family. Sacrificed? Maureen laughed harshly. You mean stole? My phone buzzed again. The unknown number. Check the photos carefully. Third one. I flipped to the third photo. It showed a young Layla with Marcus and Robert standing in front of the house. But it was what was visible through the window that made my breath catch. Stacks of cash being packed into the wall. There's more in the walls, I realized. That's what this is about. The money's still here. Stella. Layla stepped forward, hands clasped. Please, we can make a deal. A deal? I felt anger rising. Like the deal where you and Adrian tried to steal my house? Or the deal where you forged documents to threaten me? I was protecting my family. And I'm protecting mine, I shot back. This was my childhood home, my parents' home, and your husband's crimes don't give you any right to it. Are they? Layla smiled, all teeth. Perhaps you should call your lawyer. I'll wait. My best friend Gianna chose that moment to pull up in her beat-up Volkswagen, arms full of housewarming gifts. Her smile fell as she took in the scene. Everything okay here? She set the bags down, positioning herself between Layla and me. Just perfect, Layla purred. I was explaining to Stella that there's been a little mix-up with the property deeds. Nothing that can't be sorted out if she cooperates. Elliot cleared his throat. I should mention I've already emailed copies of everything to my office, just in case. Adrian's face went cold. You'll regret this, Stella. No, I smiled. I don't think I will. Now get out before I call the police. They left, Layla looking back once with something like desperation in her eyes. As soon as the door closed, I sagged against the wall. Holy shit, Maureen whispered. Holy actual shit. We need to go through these documents carefully, Elliot said, and probably contact the FBI. My phone buzzed one last time. Good job, but be careful. Marcus is dangerous when cornered. I'll be in touch. RF Jr. Robert had a son? Gianna asked, reading over my shoulder. Apparently. I looked around at my childhood home, wondering what other secrets its walls held, and something tells me we're about to meet him. What do we do now? Maureen asked. I straightened up. Now, we find out exactly what Marcus and Layla are hiding, and we make sure they never threaten me or this house again. That's my sister, Maureen grinned, finally fighting back. Yeah, I said, clutching Robert's evidence, and this is just the beginning. The contractors found the first stash of money exactly where the photo showed, behind the living room wall, stacks of yellowed bills wrapped in plastic and perfectly preserved. $20,000, Elliot announced, finishing the count, all in 80s-era hundreds. That's just one wall, Gianna said, watching the FBI agents photograph everything. How many more are there? Agent Wilson, the lead investigator, studied the old photo. Based on what we're seeing, there could be multiple hiding spots throughout the house. Ms. Palmer, we'll need to open more walls. I nodded, trying not to think about the renovation costs. Do whatever you need to. My phone lit up with a text from the mysterious RF Jr. Check the garden shed, behind the pegboard. Excuse me, I said, heading outside. Maureen followed, wielding a crowbar. I've always hated this shed, she said, prying at the pegboard. Remember how Dad never let us play in here? Maybe he knew, I suggested. Maybe that's why he bought the house, to keep the evidence safe. The pegboard came loose with a crack, revealing a metal lockbox bolted to the wall. Inside was a stack of letters, all addressed to Robert. Holy crap, Maureen breathed, reading over my shoulder. These are from Marcus. He's threatening Robert, demanding his share of something called Project Sunrise. What's Project Sunrise? We both jumped. Layla stood in the shed doorway, looking exhausted. Get out, I snapped. The FBI is here. You shouldn't be... I know they're here, she interrupted. That's why I came. There's something you need to know about Marcus. Maureen stepped forward. Why should we trust you? Because, Layla's voice cracked, he's going to kill me when he finds out I lost control of this situation, just like he killed Robert. My blood ran cold. What? Robert's death wasn't an accident. Marcus found out he'd been gathering evidence, planning to turn him in. The car crash was staged. Agent Wilson appeared behind Layla. Mrs. Flores, I think you should come inside and make a formal statement. As they led her away, my phone buzzed again. She's telling the truth. Dad's death wasn't an accident. I have proof. Meet me at the Cedar Grove Diner. 1 hour. Come alone. No way you're going alone, Maureen said, reading the text. I have to, but I'll keep my phone on tracking mode. If anything happens, we'll send in the cavalry, she promised. The diner was nearly empty when I arrived. A man sat in the back booth, middle-aged with Robert's distinctive gray eyes. You look like your father, he said as I sat down. Tom was a good man. He helped Dad protect the evidence. What exactly was Project Sunrise? He slid a USB drive across the table. A massive money laundering operation. The bank was just the front. Marcus and his partners were washing money for some very dangerous people. Dad found out, started documenting everything. And my father? Bought the house to help hide the evidence. He and Dad were old friends. The plan was to wait until the statute of limitations expired on the banking crimes, then expose the bigger conspiracy. But Marcus killed Robert first. He nodded grimly. And now he's desperate. The FBI has been closing in on his current operations. That's why Layla and Adrian tried to get the house. They need to destroy anything that could connect the old crimes to the new ones. Gianna's eyes narrowed. Stella bought this house fair and square. I helped with the paperwork myself. Did you now? Layla's perfectly manicured nail tapped against the documents. Then you missed quite a few important details. My phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. Mom tells me you're being difficult about the house. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Get off my property, I said, finding my voice. Now. My phone buzzed. Maureen, emergency. Marcus just showed up at the house. He has a gun. Go, Robert Jr. said, reading my expression. The USB has everything you need. I'll contact Agent Wilson. I broke every speed limit getting home. FBI agents had the house surrounded, but Marcus was inside with Elliot and Gianna. He's demanding the evidence, Agent Wilson told me. All of it. Says he'll start shooting if we don't comply. My phone buzzed one last time. Back door's clear. Security code 1985. Dad installed a panic room in the basement. Get your friends there. RJ. I showed Agent Wilson the text. 5 minutes later, I was creeping through my own house, hearing Marcus's voice from the living room. Where is it? He shouted. Where's the evidence? We don't know. Elliot's voice was steady. The FBI has everything. I peered around the corner. Marcus had his back to me, weapon trained on Elliot and Gianna. My friends saw me but didn't react. The panic room, I whispered, gesturing toward the basement door. What happened next was a blur. Elliot lunged, knocking Marcus off balance. Gianna kicked the gun away. I screamed for them to run as FBI agents burst in from all directions. We made it to the panic room just as the first shots rang out. Through the reinforced door, we heard the chaos above. Well, Gianna said, trying to catch her breath, I guess we found out what the Flores family was hiding. Yeah, I replied, thinking of Layla's warning and Robert's murder. And something tells me we're just getting started. The panic room's security monitor showed Marcus being led away in handcuffs, blood streaming from a shoulder wound. Agent Wilson's voice crackled through the intercom. All clear, Ms. Palmer. You can come out now. That was intense, Gianna said as we emerged. Like action movie intense? The living room was a disaster. Bullet holes in the walls, furniture overturned, and FBI evidence markers everywhere. Maureen rushed in and hugged me tight. Don't you ever scare me like that again, she whispered. Where's Layla? I asked Agent Wilson. In protective custody. She's agreed to testify against Marcus and their partners. He held up an evidence bag containing a laptop. We found this hidden in Marcus's car. The files match what was on the USB drive Robert Jr. gave you. My phone rang. Adrian. After everything that happened, I almost declined the call. Almost. What do you want? Is it true? His voice shook. Did my father really kill grandfather? Adrian, just tell me, please. I sighed. Yes, Robert Jr. has proof. Your father killed him to cover up Project Sunrise. Silence, then. I'm at the police station. I want to make a statement about what I know. Why now? Because, he paused, I found Mom's diary. She wrote about the night grandfather died, about how father came home covered in blood. I can't protect him anymore. Elliot touched my arm. Put him on speaker. Adrian, Elliot said, anything you say can be used as evidence. Are you sure about this? Yes. Father threatened to kill Mom if she ever talked. That's why she's been so desperate to get the house back. She thought if she could destroy the evidence, he'd leave her alone. Agent Wilson was already on his radio, dispatching agents to the station. There's more, Adrian continued. Project Sunrise never really ended. Father just moved it offshore. The transactions are still happening through shell companies. I can prove it. Why didn't you tell me any of this when we were married? I asked. Because I was a coward, he said simply, and because I thought I could protect everyone by staying quiet. I was wrong. The front door opened and Robert Jr. walked in, followed by more agents. Adrian, he said loudly enough to be heard through the phone. This is your uncle. I think it's time we talked. Uncle Rob? Adrian's voice cracked. They told me you were dead. That was the plan. Had to disappear to gather evidence safely. But I'm here now, and I'm going to help you make this right. Suddenly, all the lights went out. Emergency vehicles outside started blaring. Power's been cut to the whole block, Agent Wilson announced. Everyone stay calm. Layla's smile didn't waver. Oh, sweetheart, you really should have read the fine print in your divorce agreement. Adrian's family has certain historical claims to this land. We'll be in touch. She turned on her heel, leaving the papers in my shaking hands. As soon as she was gone, I collapsed onto the porch steps. She's bluffing, Gianna said, sitting beside me. She has to be. A canister crashed through the window, spewing smoke. Gunfire erupted from outside. Marcus's partners, Robert Jr. shouted. They're making a move for the evidence. Basement! I grabbed Gianna's arm. The panic room. We scrambled downstairs as bullets tore through the house. Agent Wilson and his team returned fire while Robert Jr. sealed the panic room door behind us. The evidence is safe, he said, patting his jacket pocket. All copied and encrypted, but they don't know that. My phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. Dad's partners are coming. They think everything's still in the house. Get out now. There's a tunnel, Robert Jr. said, moving to the far wall. Dad installed it when he built the panic room. Leads to the storm drain system. Of course there's a secret tunnel, Maureen muttered, because this wasn't crazy enough already. The wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage. As we crawled through, I could hear shouting and gunfire above. The house, I said, thinking of all Mom and Dad's memories. They'll destroy it looking for evidence. Houses can be rebuilt, Elliot said gently. Lives can't. We emerged 2 blocks away, behind the old pharmacy. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Adrian's doing the right thing, Robert Jr. said, helping me up, finally standing up to his father. Maybe there's hope for him yet. My phone lit up with another text, this time from Layla. I'm so sorry, Stella. For everything. I'll tell them everything I know. It's time this all ended. I looked back toward my house, seeing smoke rise against the night sky. The home I'd fought so hard to reclaim was probably being torn apart right now, but somehow I felt lighter than I had in years. You okay? Gianna squeezed my hand. Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. Sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something better. Speaking of building, Robert Jr. smiled. I believe I owe you a house renovation. It's the least I can do for my father's friend's daughter. Police cars screamed past us toward the gunfire. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear. The Flores family's secrets were finally coming to light, and I was ready to see justice done. 3 days after the shootout, I sat across from Adrian in the federal building's interview room. He looked smaller somehow, his designer suit replaced with a plain button-down shirt. The offshore accounts were just the beginning, he said, spreading documents across the table. Father had connections everywhere. Judges, politicians, even federal agents. That's how he stayed protected for so long. Agent Wilson leaned forward. And you can prove all this? I was his son. He trusted me with the books. Adrian's hands shook as he opened his laptop. Every transaction, every bribe, every shell company, it's all here. My phone vibrated. Gianna, turn on the news now. I pulled up the live stream on my phone. The headline made my heart stop. Prominent banker Marcus Flores found dead in holding cell. Adrian, I said softly, turning the phone toward him. His face went white. No, they promised he'd be protected. It wasn't suicide. Robert Jr. burst into the room. Security cameras caught 2 guards entering his cell last night. They're both missing now. Adrian slumped in his chair. His partners. They got to him before he could talk. Which means you're next on their list, Agent Wilson said. We need to move you to a secure location. Wait. Adrian grabbed my arm as they let him out. Stella, I need you to know something. That day I left you. Father threatened to hurt you if I didn't end things. He said you were getting too close to the truth. I pulled away. That doesn't excuse everything else you did. No, it doesn't, but maybe it explains it. He handed me a key. There's a storage unit on 5th Street, Unit 423. Everything you need to know about what really happened to your parents is in there. My parents? What are you talking about? But agents were already rushing him away. Robert Jr. touched my shoulder. Your father's accident, he said quietly. It wasn't random. He found something in the house, something that would have exposed everything. Marcus couldn't let that happen. The room spun. Both my parents died in that crash. I know. I'm so sorry. I've been trying to prove it for years, but Marcus was too careful. Gianna and Maureen were waiting outside with Elliot. I showed her the text from Adrian. They planned this. They waited until I'd spent every penny I had on this place. Then we'll fight back. Gianna squeezed my shoulder. Remember what your therapist said about standing your ground? We're going to that storage unit, Maureen announced, right now. It could be a trap, Elliot warned. That's why we called for backup. Gianna gestured to the street where Layla sat in an unmarked FBI car. She's been cooperating, Agent Wilson explained. Knows all of Marcus's old hiding spots. The storage facility was deserted when we arrived. Layla's hands trembled as she watched me unlock Unit 423. I tried to stop him, she whispered. When I found out what he'd done to your parents, I started gathering evidence. That's the real reason we wanted the house, not just to destroy evidence, but to find proof of what he did. The unit door rolled up, revealing stacks of boxes. On top was a manila envelope labeled Palmer Accident. Security footage, Robert Jr. said, examining the contents. Traffic cam stills, phone records. Marcus documented everything. Why? I demanded. Why keep evidence of his own crime? Insurance, Layla replied. He kept dirt on everyone involved in case they ever turned on him. My phone rang. An unknown number. The voice was unfamiliar. Ms. Palmer, you have something that belongs to us. The house, the evidence, all of it. Walk away now, or you'll meet the same end as Marcus. Who is this? We're the people who really run this town. Marcus was just our puppet. You have 1 hour to return everything, or a gunshot cracked through the air. The phone clattered from my hand as we dove for cover. Sniper! Agent Wilson shouted, drawing his weapon. Everyone back inside. More shots peppered the storage unit door as we huddled behind boxes. There's another exit. Layla pointed to a maintenance door. The service corridor leads to the back lot. Go. Robert Jr. pushed me toward it. Get the evidence to the FBI. We'll hold them off. I'm not leaving you. Stella. Maureen grabbed my arm. We didn't come this far to lose now. Mom and Dad deserve justice. She was right. I shoved the evidence into my bag as Gianna and Elliot covered our escape. In the back lot, an SUV screeched to a halt beside us. Adrian was behind the wheel. Get in, more of their guys are coming. I hesitated for a split second, then jumped in. As we sped away, I watched federal agents swarming the storage facility. Where are we going? I asked. I nodded, watching Layla's Mercedes disappear around the corner. The house behind me, my house, held every childhood memory I had. My first steps on these hardwood floors, homework at the kitchen table, Mom's garden in the backyard. I'd fought tooth and nail to buy it after my parents passed, and no way in hell was I letting the Flores family take it from me. Call Elliot, Gianna suggested, naming my lawyer. He'll know what to do. I pulled out my phone, but another text from Adrian stopped me. By the way, did Mom mention the safe? What safe? I whispered. Gianna read the text over my shoulder. There's a safe in the house? I stood up, sudden determination replacing my fear. Help me search. Whatever game they're playing, there's something in this house they want, and I'm going to find it first. That's my girl, Gianna grinned, following me inside. Operation Screw the Flores family is officially on. As we began our search, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just another power play from Layla. The way she'd smiled, like she knew something I didn't, it made my skin crawl. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. Check behind the painting in the study. Not everyone in the Flores family is your enemy. I showed Gianna the message. Think it's a trap? She shrugged. Only one way to find out. Somewhere safe, Adrian replied. Somewhere we can finally end this. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert Jr. Everyone's okay. Evidence secured. Be careful. Don't trust anyone. I looked at Adrian, wondering if I was making another huge mistake. But sometimes I realized the only way forward is through the fire. Adrian's SUV wound through back roads until we reached an old hunting cabin outside town. My phone had no signal. Perfect. "Before you panic," he said, killing the engine, "this was my grandfather's cabin, the only place Father didn't know about." "Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm done running." He pulled out a laptop. "Everything's on here. The people behind Project Sunrise, the ones who killed Father. They call themselves the Board." A car approached. I tensed, but it was Robert Jr. and Layla, followed by Gianna and Maureen in another vehicle. "The FBI is securing the storage facility," Robert Jr. said as they joined us. "But the Board's people are everywhere. We don't have much time." "Show them," Adrian told Layla. She opened her purse and removed a small recorder. "I've been recording Marcus for years, including the night he talked about your parents' murder." My hands shook as she pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the cabin. "The Palmers were getting too close. Tom found the original Project Sunrise files in that damn house. Had to be dealt with. Made it look like brake failure. Clean, simple. Even got to write off the property damage as a tax loss." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You knew," I turned to Layla, "all this time?" "I didn't know then. When I found out—" She wiped her eyes. "I started gathering evidence. That's when the Board threatened Adrian to keep me in line. Headlights swept across the windows. Multiple vehicles. They followed us." Adrian grabbed his laptop. "We need to—" The first bullet shattered the window. We dove for cover as gunfire erupted from all sides. "The cellar!" Robert Jr. shouted, pulling up a trapdoor. "There's a tunnel to the lake." "Of course there is," Maureen muttered as we scrambled down. What is it with this family and secret tunnels? More shots above, heavy footsteps on the floorboards. "Where's the evidence?" a man's voice demanded. "Gone," Adrian called back. "Already uploaded to every major news outlet. You're finished." "Then so are you." Something crashed through the trap door, a gas canister. Smoke filled the cellar. "Run." Robert Jr. pushed us toward the tunnel. "I'll hold them." A shot rang out. Robert Jr. fell. "Uncle Rob!" Adrian turned back. "Go." Robert Jr. gasped, pressing a flash drive into my hand. "Finish it." We sprinted through the tunnel as explosions rocked the cabin above. The tunnel emerged near the lake where Elliot waited in a boat. "The FBI's on their way," he said as we climbed aboard. "But we need to move. Now." "Robert," Layla sobbed. "He's still in there." "He knew the risks," Adrian said grimly. "We all did." My phone suddenly caught signal. Dozens of notifications. The evidence was going viral. News channels were picking up the story. "Look," Gianna pointed to shore where emergency vehicles were arriving. FBI boats were launching. "It's over," Adrian said quietly. "The board can't hide anymore." "Not quite over," I replied, holding up Robert Jr.'s flash drive. "We still need to finish what he started." The drive contained one file, a video of Robert Sr. recorded before his death. In it, he named names. Board members, politicians, bank executives, everyone involved in Project Sunrise. "Send it," Layla urged. "Send it everywhere." I did. Within minutes, my phone exploded with alerts. Breaking news notifications, social media going crazy. "Holy shit," Maureen breathed, reading headlines. "They're already making arrests. Judges, senators, bank presidents." Gunfire erupted from shore, the board's last desperate attempt to stop us. But FBI boats were already intercepting them. "Stella," Adrian touched my arm. "I know it doesn't make up for anything, but I'm sorry. For everything." "You're right," I said. "It doesn't make up for it. But helping expose them, that's a start." Dawn was breaking as we reached the marina. Agent Wilson waited with news. Robert Jr. had survived. Barely. The board's leadership was being rounded up. "We'll need all of you to testify," he said. "This goes deeper than anyone imagined." My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Well done. Your parents would be proud. The house is yours now, free and clear. Rebuild something beautiful. RJ." I looked at the sunrise reflecting off the lake, thinking of all the secrets finally coming to light, of justice finally being served. "Ready to go home?" Maureen asked. Home. My house might be shot up, but it was still mine. Still held the truth that helped bring down an empire of corruption. "Yeah," I said, "let's go home." Behind us, sirens wailed as more arrests began. The board's reign was ending, and my new chapter was just beginning. The last box from the moving truck contained my parents' photo albums. As I carried it into the rebuilt house, Gianna whistled appreciatively at the new hardwood floors. Robert Jr. really went all out with the renovation, she said. Well, he did promise. I set the box down in the living room where Maureen was arranging furniture. How's he doing? Better. Maureen checked her phone. Physical therapy's working. He'll be out of the hospital next week. The doorbell rang. Agent Wilson stood on the porch with Adrian and Layla. Last of the board members was sentenced today, Agent Wilson announced. 25 years, no parole. Thought you'd want to know in person. We also brought this. Adrian held out a thick envelope. Everything Father had on your parents' accident. The FBI's done with it and, well, we thought you should have it. Thank you. I took the envelope, surprised by how light it felt. The weight of its contents had haunted me for so long. Layla stepped forward hesitantly. The house looks beautiful. Your parents would have loved it. They would have, I agreed. Want to come in? We're having a sort of housewarming thing. Adrian shook his head. We should go. Our flight to witness protection leaves tonight. New names, new lives. Layla attempted a smile. A chance to start over. Good luck, I said, meaning it. As they left, Elliot's car pulled up. He hurried over with his laptop. You need to see this, he said, pulling up a news site. They found the original Project Sunrise money, all of it. The courts ordered it returned to the victims' families, including yours. Robert Jr. called from the driveway, leaning on his cane. Your parents' names were on the list of whistleblowers Marcus targeted. The compensation package should arrive tomorrow. I hugged him carefully, mindful of his healing wounds. You didn't have to come. Of course I did. It's not every day my favorite niece-in-law reclaims her home. Ex-niece-in-law, I corrected. Family's more than marriage. He winked. Speaking of which, more cars were arriving. People from town, those who'd lost money to Marcus's schemes, those who'd helped expose the truth, those who'd supported me through everything. Hope you don't mind, Gianna grinned. We invited a few friends. The house filled with voices, laughter, life. In the kitchen, Maureen organized a potluck with the food everyone brought. Elliot and Agent Wilson discussed the case's impact on banking regulations. Robert Jr. held court in the living room, sharing stories about his father's fight for justice. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Thank you for showing me it's never too late to do the right thing. Be happy, Stella. You deserve it. I stepped onto the back porch, breathing in the evening air. The garden needed work, but Mom's old rose bushes had survived everything. The crash, the shootout, the reconstruction. Still blooming. Penny for your thoughts? Gianna joined me. Just thinking about karma, I said. How everything comes full circle. Speaking of circles, she nodded toward the driveway where a moving truck was backing in. Your new neighbors are here. A young couple emerged. Newlyweds, I'd heard. Starting fresh just like I had. Welcome to the neighborhood, I called out. They waved, looking nervous but hopeful. Like me, not so long ago. You know, Robert Jr. said, appearing beside me, Dad always said this house had a way of finding the right people when they needed it most. Is that why he sold it to my father? That, and he knew Tom would protect the truth until it was time for it to come out. He squeezed my shoulder. Some houses are more than buildings. They're guardians of justice. Inside, someone had started playing music. The smell of food and sound of friendship filled every corner. No more secrets in these walls, I said. No more hidden darkness. No, Robert Jr. agreed. Just light and life. And maybe some very good security cameras, just in case. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in what felt like forever. Come on. Gianna tugged my arm. Your guests are waiting. Time to make some new memories in this house. She was right. The past had been exposed, justice served, wounds healed. The house that had sheltered decades of secrets now stood renewed, ready for a fresh chapter. As I rejoined the gathering, I caught a glimpse of my parents' photo on the mantel. They were smiling, standing proud in front of this very house, their dreams for the future shining in their eyes. We did it, I whispered to them. We made it right. And somewhere in the warmth of friendship and the strength of truth, I felt them smile back.